Well, thank you, Imana. We'll still have Joe Ajaero here, factional president of the NLC. Well, earlier in the day, we had Ayuba Wabba, also factional president of the NLC, here in our studios. We insisted that we must have both parties to this matter, and then he subsequently declined participation. Well, let's move on with this segment and wrap it up. You're going to ask a question now.
Yes, I was asking, you know, you were answering just what your perspective for the NLC, what you see in the near future and maybe even into the far future, if the NLC continues in this path, what do you see exactly? I know that you've tried to answer that, but you didn't quite hit the nail on the head.
So what do I say again? You see, the NLC, the law did not say there must be one labor center, for instance. It did not say there must be one industrial union. Prior to now, it used to be the NLC. Later, we had a senior staff counterpart, TUC. And then, I think we can still have unity in diversity. We can still render services, because that is what it's all about. Services to the Nigerian worker.
Because I'm looking at, you know, the role that the NLC plays. The NLC is not just leading its own unions. The NLC leads workers that are even not unionized. When the NLC speaks, you know, as one body, the nation listens. And by the nation, I don't just mean government. I mean, you know, stakeholders across board, all employers to listen. And looking henceforth, looking forward, I'm wondering if the NLC will be able to wield the same kind of power, the same kind of attention that it's been able to wield in this sort of state.
It wasn't based on its size that it played those roles. The NLC, even in the last 8 years, you can't attribute such roles to it. You know, if you are talking of, you know, that we must all come together and suffocate, and then there's no direction, that is not the NLC of our dream. The NLC of our dream is the type that when it talks, the people will take them serious, and it will implement whatever it proposes to do.
You say it's not by size, it's by strength, yeah. I want to believe. Yeah. And you believe that it is, you have the strong sides on your own side.
Well, what I'm saying, you know,
is that that's your faith, right?
Even if you have 4 labor centers, like what we had as at 1978, if there are issues, because even today, if there are issues, even the TUC, the NLC, you know, they come together to address those central issues. Sorry.
So you see a situation where on any matter, say affecting workers and, you know, relating with government, you see a situation where 2 of you will be able to sit together and do that when you could not sit together on May Day?
3 or more. You know, the TUC, the NLC, you know, all other organizations, the civil society, like those ones who are not under NLC.
Mr. Ajaero, I'm asking a very pointed question.
Go ahead.
My question is this, that you see a situation where you and the other factional president will be able to sit together and agree on matters affecting workers in negotiation with government? You really do see such a situation?
When it comes to matters affecting workers, I will work with everybody concerned to make sure that is achieved.
What if they don't recognize you?
Oh, that's the problem. If they don't recognize me and my people say I should represent them, then you have to go and manufacture another person to represent my people.
I'm just wondering, what if 2 of you cannot even agree on the terms? You know, so for instance, if it's an issue of minimum wage and both of you cannot even agree on what figure to present to government, what happens in that stance?
We'll take the highest figure. But you see, let me say this, before we go for such meeting, because, and that was what I tried to underscore before, the state will be interested in such division because it pays any government to have discordant tones. I repeat.
I'm aware. You know, I'm really happy that you're aware of that.
No, I am, and that's why the disagreement, we are still giving room, like the veterans I mentioned to you, and they say they have adjourned. We are still giving room for a solution, you know, if it comes. But like I said, it can't be piece of the graveyard. You know, we must find out where this problem started. We must find out the result of this election. and then move ahead.
Isn't that what the courts would do? Be it industrial courts or whichever court, but you haven't approached that.
Well, I don't think that we have had that experience of maybe as election are taking place now, you have the tribunals handling election matters. You know, I'm not sure we have such.
So what's the process of resolving this matter, apart from the veterans coming?
Well, this has equally exposed NLC, you know, because we didn't have this internal resolution mechanisms. If it were to be under normal circumstance, things were normal. Maybe the organs, the National Administrative Council. Of course, now you now have to. The Central Working Committee, the National Executive Council, NEC, will look at these issues. But this is an issue that, you know, has defied these organs. So and that is why the veterans are coming in. And they are coming in is like advisory.
Can I ask you a question? It's a rather personal question, but do you see yourself as an extreme leader?
Never. Never.
I ask this because, you know, sometimes governments take interest in who becomes, you know, NLC president because they want somebody that they can also relate with, someone whom they think will be reasonable with them when they're making instances. You don't seem to have shown that stance with government, have you?
Yeah, in terms of interest of workers, I will not compromise, even at the point of being called names. And that's where the difference comes in. But at the end of the day, even the so-called privatization they were talking of, we managed it very well. But we're at the level of implementation.
Even though they said you were almost, they interpreted it as though you were bent on frustrating that privatization process.
Well, this is, but you have seen it now. People are enjoying privatization. I don't want to even go into that, you know. But what I'm saying is that 2 years after, you still have thousands of workers that have not been paid. And that's the kind of peace, that's the kind of good human being I should be.
But the thing now is this, if this continues this way, NLC remaining factionalized, it shouldn't. How long will it be this way?
So how do you think is the best way to resolve this? You know, if people have invited us and they say do A, B, C, D. Now I want to be told what to do. You know, because the way we are looking at it, it appears one is difficult. I have told you that if I'm summoned tomorrow or next tomorrow, and none of the people and the veterans are alive, they won't tell you I've given them even any extreme condition or condition, so to say. So why can't we resolve it?
So what are you don't have any conditions or
that I have given that is now warranting being an extremist in this regard.
Do you have any conditions to resolving this matter?
How do I have conditions than for us to investigate this result and know where it happens, know what actually transpires, so that Nigerians will be better informed? Now, at that point, when you have identified the problem, you can now come up with a position, since it's those veterans, to say, gentlemen, this. And every Nigerian will hear it. But if you say, oh, leave it there, it's all over. Because some people said, we can't work with this. Maybe they could have even stopped me then, rather than allow me to contest the election, you know, and I know the results. So these are the issues.
Okay, let's just go back a little bit. Before the elections finally took place, the initial election, why was that disrupted?
Okay, fine. Now, if you go to, you see, that's a point nobody wants to visit. That election, you see a booklet with ballot papers. That was how it was designed. Now, in a booklet, you see a ballot paper, Joe Ajaero. Now, you see 3 ballot papers in one booklet, Ayuba Wabba. You are supposed to tick. Somebody would tick 3 times and put 3 for him and put 1 for Joe Ajaero. It was at the point that it got to my delegates that they raised this issue. That was what disrupted that election. Now, if somebody is having 2...
Sorry, wait. You have a booklet...
One booklet for president has 2...
That's supposed to have just 2 names.
Yes.
And now having 4.
Fine. Or 3. 2 of those ballot booklets, because it's personalized. Ayuba Wabba has his own ballot paper. Joe Ajaero has his own ballot paper. Now, in that booklet, you have Ayuba Wabba 3 or 2. You have Joe Ajaero 1. What that means is that as he is scoring 2 votes, I'm scoring 1.
Do you think that the processes should also be changed? Because I'm listening to it and it sounded very complicated to me. I'm wondering why there will be separate booklets or personalized booklets.
Fine.
You know, perhaps it should look a little more like what INEC does, you know, where there's just one ballot sheet and you take who you want and we count the most votes. It shouldn't be that complicated, should it?
Now, you ask yourself, this is the 11th delegates conference of the NLC. The other ones are not like this. The other ones, we don't count votes, 3,000 votes for 2 days and 2 nights. We don't go into this individualized or personalized ballot papers.
Did they agree to let it come up this way? Because there was a committee, I think it was headed by, was it Fage that headed that committee? How did you all agree to come to this? Because they didn't foist it down on people, did they?
We are not part of the design that there will be separate ballot sheets. Because that had
Your
not
agent
happened.
was not privy to that decision?
Before. Well, what we had was a committee, credential committee. The agents were appointed at the point of voting.
So it was a committee that planned the whole thing? You were not privy to this plan to have personalized booklets?
No. That was what led to the collapse of the first election.
But was it just those 2 positions that they were voting for on the day? There were other positions?
They were, you know, 1 or 2 other positions, you know, we equally saw repeat. But even to worsen it, if you look at Joe Ajaero's ballot papers in that botched election, you discover that there's no serial number. Now, apparently, if the votes had, you know, been dictated, that maybe the number is maybe higher than the number of votes cast, the ones without serial numbers will be seen as the fake ballot papers. And if you complain after that, if that election had, you know, taking place to the end, if not for maybe the disruption, people will say, oh, you're a bad loser, just as people are trying to say now.
So it wasn't that some people stepped down at the last minute and so they had to print ballot papers, that was why it ended up that way?
Well, even the people that stepped down last minute, you know, the NLC constitution is clear that 48 hours after filing of nomination papers, you publish the names in major dailies. That was done by January 4th. Now, the issue of, you know, people stepping down, people filing papers last minute is illegal.
What makes it illegal?
Well, the NLC constitution, as of today, has not been amended to say you take nomination at the floor of the conference. You take nomination weeks before the election, and the people so cleared, you know, their names are published. And in that particular instance, people were even published and returned unopposed. And then at the floor there, you say, no, because I'm trying to imagine INEC saying, oh, Buhari is now contesting for governor. That the day of election. What would Nigerians say?
All right, we'll take a quick break and then we'll be back and wrap this up. Don't go away.